Good afternoon, Rotarians, friends, and guests. I'm Hannibal B. Johnson. It's my privilege as president to welcome you to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. As if we needed a reminder, tomorrow is not promised. Be present in the moment, in the here and now. Live your best life, be your best self now and always. We are stunned and saddened by the sudden passing of Rotarian Dr. Michael Turner. Michael, a Paul Harris Fellow, joined our club in 2011. This former Marine's passion for Rotary shone like the sunlight on an endless summer day. Just last week, he joined us on stage to welcome 2 new members whom he'd recruited. Michael will be sorely missed. Please join me in a moment of silence in tribute to fellow Rotarian, Dr. Michael Turner. Thank you. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment now to silence your cell phones. A special thanks, as always, to Tom Wolfe for our pre-meeting musical interlude. Let's begin our program with the invocation from Bill Miller, followed by Song and Pledge from Michelle Place, and visitor introductions from Ed Monette.
Would you bow with me, please? Dear God, we are thankful for this beautiful spring day. We are thankful for Rotary and for this Rotary Club, for the fellowship that we experience each Wednesday. And we are especially thankful for the Rotarians in this club who are committed to making our community and our world a better place through their service. Father, we mourn the passing of Rotarian Michael Turner, and to you we lift up his family. We are thankful for his life and for his example to us of service above self. Bless the food that we have partaken to the nourishment of our bodies, and bless the hands that prepared it. Amen.
Good afternoon. Will you join me in singing My Country 'Tis of Thee, followed by the pledge? My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom reign. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. Typical speaker today, Barry Switzer. It's like we have speakers of this import every year. Business announcement, someone left a very nice cross pin out at the sign-in desk, so get that after you leave. And the second business announcement is, Coach, if I could get you to sign this jacket. My life will be complete. As is our custom, I will introduce our visitor and their host Rotarian. If you will briefly stand and then sit back down, we'll hold our applause and greet you all at the end together. Rotarian Darren Walkup has with him Julie Lynn and Alan Hart, one with Tulsa Fire and one with Commerce Bank. Jeff Smith with A-Best has brought Kay Calloway. Rob Walters has 2 guests, Brad Prost and Mark Husband, his brother-in-law. Brady Wynn has Ryan Featherston. Bill Gaddis has with him the lovely Karen Gaddis. Duff Weddle has Richard Hott. Jack McGlumphy brought with him Dana McGlumphy and Savannah Neff. Dennis Anderson has Julia Corsier. Elaine Dishman brought Monica Champ. Barney James brought Bill Haston with the Tulsa World. Linda Wilson has John Wilson, her husband. Phil Viles has Wesley Leander with ORU, and Rob Berry has 2 guests, Bruce Walker and Bob Frames, and he bragged that he has friends. They are your friends. All right. Cindy Salter has Patty Harwell and Carla Coates. We have tons of visitors today, surprise, surprise. Karen McConnell has Taylor Bates. David Morgan has David Goldsmith. Dana Burks has her daughter, Taylor Burks. Russ Gibbs has the lovely Julie Gibbs. Tiffany Egdorf has Janice Navarro, Tom Klenda, Chris Ambergy. Prima Donna Braddock brought Michael Fagan. Mike Rogers brought Heather Rogers and Royce Webster. Jerry Bates brought Ivy Graham. And Coach Switzer has Craig Morrison. David Downing has with him Dell Chambers and India Wilkerson. Don Woolsey brought Kyle Roberts, and Richard Holmes brought Pat Brown, his son. Continuing, Jane Carlson brought Lee Carlson and Bill Queen, fraternity brother Bill Queen. Coach Switzer has Terry Sividon and Michael Atchison, both with Tulsa Fire Department. Tom Byers has John Rhodes. Karen McConnell has Taylor Bates. Did I already say that one? Probably did. And Tina Miller has George Sadawi. That may be okay. Let's give them all a round of applause. We have a couple of visiting Rotarians with us today. Brad Braddock with the Will Rogers Club. Our assistant governor from the Sunrise Club is Carol Orr. Hi, Carol. And from Rotaract, we have Hannah Fitzgerald. Thank you all for being here and hope to see you again.
He's actually going to sign this thing.
We got that at Walmart.
Thank you, Bill, Michelle, and past President Ed. A special thanks to this week's meeting sponsor, Inverness Village. Our announcements. Please keep Dr. Michael Turner's family in your thoughts and prayers. Condolences have been sent on behalf of our club, and services are pending. The 2019-2020 Programs Committee will meet in room 233 immediately after this meeting. Next Wednesday, the Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt will be our speaker at our annual OKC Tulsa joint meeting. On April 10th, we'll have our Nicaragua Water Well program, as well as a special performance from the Tulsa Symphony Orchestra. Camp Enterprise kicks off tomorrow. Special thanks to all who are volunteering their time this weekend. Camp Enterprise annual steak night will be held on Saturday at 6:30 p.m. at Heart of Hills Camp in Tahlequah. If you plan to attend, please contact Karen McCannell. Now it's Sarge time. Daniel.
Good afternoon. Welcome, Coach. Believe it or not, I actually have a Coach Switzer story. I got to spend some time with Coach about a year ago. We have a mutual business partner, and Coach asked where I went to school. So I told him, Coach, I went to Oklahoma State, to Southern Methodist University. Coach, with a big smile on his face, says, well, son, I'm sorry to hear that. Of course, I also told Coach that I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas, and I was raised a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. And he actually let me look at the Super Bowl ring. This is actually one of the highlights of my life. I sent that to my dad and my sister, and we all loved it. I was a little sore the next day. I don't know how you do it, Coach. Okay, first off, we have spring break. Brenda Melancon, $25, went to Destin with her sister, her son, and her daughter-in-law, and they played some golf. I tried to get Brenda to pay whatever they shot. She said she couldn't afford that. I'm paying my own fine here because I went on spring break. Part of it was in Philadelphia. If you can recognize the old Rocky stairs there. And of course, my son's name is Adrian. So I'm pretty sure we annoyed a lot of people with my Yo Adrian chants. but we had a good time there. And Philadelphia also has a Rodin Museum, so I had to show my daughter, Lyndon, doing the pose there. Got Matt Davis, $100. Happy 37th birthday to his son Matthew. Oh, I skipped over it. Well, it's here somewhere. There it is. $100. Happy 37th birthday to his son Matthew. That's them at the old Drillers ballpark, even though Matt says he's not much of a baseball fan. Is that right? All right. Well, thanks, Matt, and happy birthday to Matthew. We got Chuck Wilson, $109. 74 years young, 31 years in Rotary. So $3 for Coach Switzer's national titles at Oklahoma and $1 for his Super Bowl. Thanks, Chuck. Happy birthday. Got Brady Wynn was in the Tulsa World. He's donating $50. It's actually a really good interview. I only put the first one up there, but there's 5 questions that he talks about what brought him to start his own business right now. It's a really interesting article about running an insurance company as a small business. Be sure to look it up. Congratulations, Brady, and thank you for the donation. All right, Colonel Bill Kogerman. Barbara sent these to me. His birthday was March 11th. You know, I've been out for a couple of weeks, so happy birthday to Colonel Bill. Here's him as a young Marine. Here's what Barbara calls Rotary Bill these days, doing good work. And here he is in his, I believe it's called Highland gear. Is that right? So happy birthday to Colonel Bill. $81. He did tell me not to tell you his age, but we got $81 out of it. Tim Knoll, $50. He won second place for the medium-sized booths at the Tulsa Home and Garden Show 2019. Congratulations, Tim. Diane Peacock, she's donating $100 to thank Michelle Place for the extraordinary film L'Adore Vidor, which some Rotarians got a private screening of about a month ago. It's actually airing on RSU Public Television in the month of April. If you want to look it up, it'll air there. It's available at the Historical Society. Diane has been a big encouragement for this project. So thank you, Diane, and thank you, Michelle. Speaking of Michelle, here's her and Chris, $50. She calls themselves, I guess, the Rotary Hogs, and they're with Coach Chad Morris there. So go Hogs.
That's right.
Here's a cool one. Tanya Blansett with the Tulsa Air and Space Museum, donating $422. Here's the breakdown. $50 for 50 years of the Apollo missions, $18 for there being 18 of them, $7, the number of astronauts from Oklahoma, $4, May the 4th be with you. That's the date of this year's Aviator Ball, the 4th of May. $13 for Jim Bridenstine, being the 13th NASA administrator who came and spoke with us recently. And the big one, $330. That's 33,000 pennies for each of the 33,000 children that participated in the museum's Aerofocus STEM program in 2018.
That's good.
Now, Tanya did ask, and I think she deserves it for this amount, for me to try and be funny with this. So the best I could come up with is an old joke I remembered. I had to write it down. So Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson go on a camping trip. After a good dinner and a bottle of wine, they retired to the night to go to sleep. Some hours later, Holmes wakes up and nudges his friend. Watson, look up at the sky and tell me what you see. He says, I see millions and millions of stars. Holmes says, and what do you deduce from that? So Watson thinks for a little bit. Well, astronomically, it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Astrologically, I observe that Saturn is in Leo. Horologically, I deduce that the time is approximately 3:15. Meteorologically, I suspect that we will have a beautiful day tomorrow. Theologically, I can see that God is all-powerful and that we are a small and insignificant part of his universe. So what does it tell you, Holmes? Holmes responds, Watson, I think you think too much. It tells me that someone has stolen our tent. And speaking of the fourth be with you, here is the Aviators Ball coming up. Thought she deserved the song too. So the important thing to note about this is that Jim Bridenstine, the NASA administrator, will be the keynote speaker. Apollo astronauts General Tom Stafford and Harrison Schmitt will be in attendance. And there is a flight show before the meal with planes landing and taxiing up to the event, and guests can see the planes up close and personal. So please support Tanya, support the museum, and thank you, Tanya, for the generous donation. That's all I got. Thanks, Hannah.
Great, perfect. Thank you, Daniel. Next up, we have a side mic announcement from Cindy Salter and John Croissant on special events.
Hi, everybody. It's nothing like having 300 pairs of eyes looking at you and Barry Switzer sitting behind you. I mean, woo, a lot going on here, but I want to say it's nice to see you again. Okay, a couple of months ago, Lynette Potter asked me to be the chair for the Tulsa Exchange Committee, and I accepted it. And at that time, I had asked several of new Rotarians to be on my committee, and they have helped make this committee wonderful, and we've got a great event that's going to take place on April the 3rd. I want to give personally thanks to Judge Caroline Wall, Debbie Stumps, Brady Wynn, and of course my sidekick, John Croissant. We have a tour set up at the Gathering Place. We are going to have their bus arrive from Oklahoma City to the Gathering Place at 10 a.m. I want to say thank you to Rodriguez Rojas for setting up this tour for us. Unfortunately, they're only going to allow 50 people to be on this tour, but we have something else that's going to take place. After our luncheon, they'll arrive at 10, we'll finish our tour at 11, we'll come back here for our meeting, and after the meeting at 1 o'clock, we are going to go to Marshall's Brewery for a beer tasting. And we would like for all of you to come. And I'm going to turn this over to John Croissant because he's the one that set this up.
And we've got Eric Marshall with Marshall's Brewery. He's going to tell a little bit about some of the different brewing that's going on in Tulsa. We wanted to highlight some of the best of Tulsa. So we'll have a little bus tour for them at downtown. We'll go down to Marshall's Tap Room. And then from there, we're going to head over to the Mother Road Market as well. So.
Yes, and Karen Keith has been so kind to be our speaker to discuss Tulsa at the Mother Road Market, and we would love for everyone to come, to welcome them. I want this to pop. I want Oklahoma City to go back and go, we got to keep up with these guys. So anyway, thank you for everything you've done, and I hope to see you next Wednesday.
Thank you. Our Rotarian of the day is past president Linda Bradshaw. Linda served as a club president in 2006-2007, has the distinction of being our first female president. She majored in music at the University of Tulsa in the 1960s, was a pioneering woman on the professional bass fishing circuit in the 1970s. In 1971, she was named Oklahoma Sportswoman of the Year. Linda, along with her husband Wayne, owned and operated Tulsa World of Gymnastics from 1976 to 2016. She is a Paul Harris Fellow Major Donor, a benefactor, Rotarian of the Year in 2004, and a recipient of the James G. Sade Service Above Self and Then Some Award. Please help me welcome past President Linda Bradshaw.
Well, good afternoon, Rotarians and friends. I'm so honored today to introduce my good and longtime friend, Becky Switzer. Becky was a gymnast and a coach for a total of 37 years. She was the University of Oklahoma's head coach of the women's gymnastics program for 12 years. She would lead the team to 3 national championship appearances and 5 Big 8 titles. Becky also is an Olympic coach, 1988 Seoul, Korea. She was our women's coach on the floor. Following her very athletic career, she ran a successful talent agency and served on the Oklahoma Tourism Committee. She is a 3-time honoree of the Women of the Year, and she's a member of the Oklahoma Women's Circle of Excellence. Please give her a warm Rotary welcome. On a side note, she also coached your executive director, Tina Miller. Our speaker today needs absolutely no introduction. He's a native of Arkansas, and as a newborn, he lived in a houseboat. As a child, in a shack with no plumbing or electricity, would rise above his surroundings and his family's circumstances. You can read about it in Bootlegger's Boy, to become the most successful football coach in the history of the game. His success led to the official dedication on May the 5th, 2018 of the football hub called the Switzer Center. Yes, that is named after our speaker, Barry Switzer. No introduction needed here. He led the Sooners to 3 national championships, 12 Big 8 conference titles, 8 bowl wins in 13 appearances, and an overall record of 157, 29, and 4 for a percentage of 837 in 16 seasons. He would coin the phrase Sooner Magic, and to many commentators, he is dubbed the King. You can't hear the names Billy Sims, the Selmans, the Wishbone, or the Boz without thinking Barry Switzer. I also found out that Barry is an actor. He has his own IMDb page with movie credits to Varsity Blues, Any Given Sunday, and The Turkey Bowl. Barry coached the Dallas Cowboys for 4 years, leading them to the Super Bowl 30. And he is one of the only head coaches to ever win both a college national championship and a Super Bowl. He's a college coach of the year. He is a college football Hall of Fame inductee. He's coached the Heismans. He's produced 54 All-Americans. He's a recipient of the Jim Thorpe Lifetime Achievement Award, honorary head coach of the Oklahoma Special Olympics for 50 years, and maybe the only coach in the world who has an oversized guest room with 4 queen-size beds for former players if they stop in Norman for a visit. Barry and his wife, Becky, reside in Norman. They live on a corner with a circular drive so the kids can drive through and honk all night. But in 2016, Becky and Barry combined their efforts to help save lives. Following the Oklahoma City bombing and 3 deadly tornadoes in Moore, Oklahoma, Becky and Barry founded Ground Zero. It is an emergency training center to breed, raise, and train search dogs, as well as preparing first responders to save more lives during man-made and national disasters. And so, without any introduction, please welcome Barry Switzer.
Oh, Linda. I have a few announcements to make before the program. Bill Hastings, are you here? Someone said you were here. Did he make it? Didn't make it? Bill, I want to see you after this is over with, okay? I got a 20-year bone to pick with you. No, seriously, I want to visit with you. Let's see, Daniel, I'm glad to see you've improved since I've seen you last. Yeah, you overcame your liabilities. Gee, you know what? And then the other disclaimer I got to say, the red car Corvette outside is not mine. Someone asked me when I was at the red car, the Corvette's yours? No, it's not. I wish the hell it was. First of all, want to say I am so glad to look out here and see so many gray-headed and bald-headed people. I really am. You know, I hate to go talk to millennials because they don't know who in the hell I am. First of all, I'm serious. In Norman, Oklahoma, when I go around, I see people that look like you, and when I see your children walk up to me with their kids, they walk, oh, it's Barry Switzer, and the kids are on their phone, and they're doing whatever, and they're just blowing their bubbles, and they walk up, and the mamas and daddies are making out over me, and all of a sudden the kids don't know who in the hell they're talking to, and I say, I'm the old Bob Stoops, and they finally get it then. So the next thing I do, I'm having to say today, I'm Lincoln Riley's grandfather. Then they get it. So that's the predicament I'm in. Do you realize that I have been gone from the University of Oklahoma for 30 years this year? Now, that means you're over 50 if you were there when I was coaching. And when I started coaching, you were 70 today. That's how long ago it's been. You know, I came here 53 years ago to the University of Oklahoma to coach. I'd coached 7 at the University of Arkansas. I was there 11 in Fayetteville, and then came here in 1966 and started coaching. And where the hell has it gone? You know, the older you get, the faster it goes, isn't it? And the 50s went faster than the 60s, and it's on and on and on. But anyway, I'm glad to see everybody here, and I really love to see smiles on people's faces out there and know that, hey, we all share the same values. We all believe in the same things most times, and I love to talk about my experiences at the University of Oklahoma because it's a great program, and I'm glad I was able to contribute to it greatly through the years that I was there. I think about when I first got there in '66, it was kind of things were going down. You know, kind of like the 90s after I left here. But it was kind of going down after Bud had left, and it dropped off to about 4 wins, and that's what the reason you invite new coaches to come take over the program. So we came from Arkansas with Jim McKenzie, he had tragically died in 1 year, and Chuck Fairbanks was named head coach, and then we took the team from early 60s on to a winning program, and we won a couple Big 8 conference championships, and nearly won a national championship, went 10-1 and beat Tennessee in the Orange Bowl in '68, and y'all probably old enough to remember some of that. And then in the 1970s, I was given my opportunity. I had to talk Chuck into going to the Wishbone. I tried to talk him into doing the '70s and go through spring practice, but Chuck wanted to run the split beer, what he had run at Houston, so we tried that for about 6 games, and all of a sudden these Chuck bumper stickers started coming out, and I had to go into Chuck's office, and I said, Chuck, you notice that all around Norman they got these Chuck Chump bumper stickers? He said, yeah. He squinted his eyes, smoked that cigarette, and he looked at me and he said, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to tell you something. If they fire your ass, they're going to fire my ass. So I want you to make sure that, by golly, we don't do that. We need to do something about it. We need to go to the Wishbone. We did. He took my advice. I'd already talked to offensive and defensive staff, and we went to it. Then we made history. For the next decade of the 70s, we won over 113 games, the most of any team during the 70s. Won 113 games, only lost about 11, I think, in that period of time, and dominated college football. I had a streak of 54-3-1 at one time. We'd won 38 in a row at one time. Y'all, you have to be old enough to remember it. See, if I was talking to millennials, they wouldn't know what the hell I'm talking about. You know, they don't remember it. They weren't born. But when I had the Selmans play for me at Oklahoma, you remember the Selmans? Anybody follow? Some of you follow? But think about this. When I had a Selman play at the University of Oklahoma, we were 54-3-1. We won 2 national championships back-to-back, 2 undefeated seasons back-to-back. 54-3-1. Think about that. That's how much would they make today? A coach them like 6, 7, 8 million? I made $24,000. Seriously. They make as much in one day as I made in a year. And I look at the Lincoln Riley's record today, and I can say, well, I've already won twice as many games as he did. I mean, he's already had twice as many losses as I had in my first 3 years. You know, really, he's lost 3, only lost 1. But anyway, I'm happy for him and happy for everybody that makes a little bit more than what we made back in the 70s. But I think about it, that, and I think about it every time I go speak to a group like this. Daniel reminded me of this, and I want to say this to you. I've been limited in what time I can talk, but I'm going to talk some football, and then we'll get into the rest of the program and look at a video. But I want to remind you this, is that wherever I go in the state, I always worry about the demographics a little bit because we're a divided state, because obviously OSU, OU, and when I look at clubs and what's the Rotarians I speak in Oklahoma City or the Kiwanis, whoever, what group I'm speaking to, I always look out there and I wonder what school they went to. And because obviously I'm from OU, and I really want to talk and say positive things about the other school too, and I usually do. And I've got something I want to tell you. I'd like to know how many OSU fans we got here. Raise, got great, super. I'm proud of you. I love the school. I love Pat Jones. I love a lot of the players. Know them all from there that were great players. I tried to recruit some of them, and but I always tell this story about. And I mean it truly, and it's not a joke, it's the truth. I have always said that of all the great players I've coached at the University of Oklahoma, the great running backs, the Joe Washington, the Greg Pruitts, the Billy Sims, all the great ones, even Marcus Dupree, I didn't have but 1 year, all the great running backs that I've ever had that played at Oklahoma, Steve Owens. I'm not sure the two greatest running backs in the Big 8 Conference that I've seen play are Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders. I would say without a doubt that they are. And when I'd make these remarks in banquets around the state for years, and I meant it, truly meant it, and I know them both well, really appreciate them, and their talents and abilities, and I recognize it, and I say they were the two best backs and running backs. If you don't believe it, hey, they're all pro. Their busts are in Canton. They're in the NFL Hall of Fame, both of them. That proves that I'm probably right about that. And you know what? When I talk about that, I noticed all the guys that raised their hands and women out here that they're OSU fans. I see that you're smiling about that. And you know what? I always like to ask them. Then I would always follow up and say, you know what Barry Sanders and Thurman Thomas have in common? You know what they have in common? You know, before anybody answer, I'd say they never beat my ass. Hey, but they were the two best backs I ever saw in the Big 8 Conference, and I mean that. But the ironic thing of that is, I would do that when I was in college, and all of a sudden Jerry Jones calls me one day and asks me if I would like to coach the Cowboys, and I said, hell, I didn't know the job was open. He said, well, it's fixing to be open. I said, well, you call me when the job is open. So he calls me the next day. He's made a decision. He's going to fire Jimmy Johnson, who Jimmy would never, knowing Jimmy's personality, he would never admit he coached with me at the University of Oklahoma, and he was an assistant when I was the head coach. Now, you think Jimmy would go tell anybody that? No, I know his personality because I raised him. I knew him from the time he's 17 years old, and Jerry Jones 17 years old. I coached both of them at the University of Arkansas through an entire career. I was on the coaching staff there with Frank Broyles, so I knew them both very well. So anyway, I've got Jimmy for 4 years at Oklahoma with me, and we did a great job. He was part of that great winning streak, 54-3-1, so it was a great experience with him. I always had that. I loved Jerry Jones. I always had a great relationship with Jerry. So Jerry calls me and asks me if I want to come to the Cowboys. I took the job, and on my first Monday night of football that we played in Dallas in 1994, we had to play Barry Sanders and the Detroit Lions. So I got to admit that night it was my first loss to Barry Sanders. It didn't happen in college, but by God, that night, and the great thing about that night, it's a true story. Willie Sanders, if anybody read anything about Barry's daddy, he was the greatest Sooner fan there was. Willie Sanders, you know that. All the comments he would make in the paper about the Oklahoma, Willie was a true fan. But his son was the greatest back in college football, Heisman Trophy winner playing at OSU. Well, anyway, we all know what happened. Barry goes to play for Detroit and is a great player, has a great career. But his first game against the Cowboys, I'm sitting in the locker room, and in the dressing room in the old stadium there in Irving, and the knock is on the door. The rest of the team's down on the field warming up, and we all in pro football, they go down in different groups. The coaches take them down to warm up. And I'm sitting there the last. I don't really care about walking down the field, walking around and feeling the field out, all that crap. All these other guys, it's all show. They're fakes, they're phonies anyway. They want to be there, the cameras on them. I didn't care anything about that, so I'm sitting up there in the room talking to a few other coaches that were there, special teams coach and all. And there's a knock at the door, and it's a security guard. The security guard says to me, Coach, Willie Sanders wants to see you. He's at the front door of the ramp. We go down to the field. And so I walk out there, and I walk up, hey, Willie, how you doing? He says, hey, Coach, I'm doing okay, but I'm telling you, I'm really upset because the Detroit Lions won't give me a sidelines pass. And I'll go to Detroit. They always give me a sidelines pass, but they won't give me one tonight. And I said, Willie, we only give out to visiting teams a number that covers all their personnel that they need. So they can't help you. And I said, well, he says, I'm always on the sidelines when Barry plays. I said, okay. I reach down, I untake my sidelines pass. And I hand it, true story now, I hand it to Willie. And I said, Willie, you got to keep your butt off their sidelines because they will throw you off the field. You've got to stay with this on my sidelines, and I don't want anybody to know who in the hell you are, and I want you to stay behind our bench, and you have the right to go up and down from goal line to goal line, but you stay behind the players and the press and the media. And he said, I'll agree to that. So, okay, you're on the sideline. I forgot all about it. Well, Barry Sanders rushes for 194 yards that night. In the overtime, Barry Sanders makes a run to win the game. We get beat in overtime that game. Barry Sanders had 194 yards. Willie Sanders is the only one that outrushed him that night. Because every time Barry made a long run, Willie Sanders would be running up and down the sidelines, and our coaches would turn around, our players, say, who is that guy? They're trying to figure out who it is. They asked me. I said, I don't know. You know, I never looked. I didn't pay attention because I told him to tell him, don't tell him when I gave you that damn pass. So that night, of course, Barry and I for years have laughed about Willie outrushing him that night on the field. True story. It happened, and then Thurman got me up at Buffalo one night too, so it's all even now. But it's a great story, and it was a great run at Oklahoma, you know, to be able to contribute to our tradition there and coach for 16 years. You know, I left when we won. I had a 9-2 season when I left. I want you all to remember that. I didn't leave because I was losing, and I was winning, and won 4 consecutive Big 8 conference championships and won a national championship. We had a team that led the nation 3 consecutive years in defense. We could play real good defense, and I was proud of what we'd put together. But things that happened, and as it happens every day at every program in the country, we're not immune to it. And I had a lot of instances I thought it'd be best that I left and gave it to someone else. And then we all saw what happened to the 90s. I promise you the 90s would have not been the 90s if I had stayed there. I promise you. So, and I'm not saying that to brag. I just know. I know in my heart. I know what I did in the 70s and 80s I could have done in the 90s too. So anyway, things have turned around. I'm glad Bob and Lincoln are there today, and we were able to accomplish and do what we're doing today. I'm proud of what Oklahoma's done and doing today, and we finally brought the program back to the level that it should be. My experience in Dallas, Texas was like this. I want to tell you, I get asked this a lot and a lot of questions when people ask me questions about Dallas Cowboys and pro experience versus college experience. And I always say this. When I went to Dallas, I went down there, I took over a tough job, a tough situation, probably as tough as any situation any coach could take in pro football. I didn't get to bring a staff. I didn't get to hire a staff. Jimmy's the only one that left and the only one that came, and I inherited his staff. I didn't know any of the coaches. I didn't know what their allegiance or hidden agendas would be. I didn't know what their loyalty would be. I didn't know anything. I had to evaluate and learn quickly, and that's what I did. But my job is to keep it in the middle of the road and try to, Jerry and Jimmy, I always said, put together a great team. I didn't put it together. It was there, and I had the opportunity to come in and see if I could win with it. And media down there beat me up all. Of course, the reason they beat me up because I used to beat up on all their teams. They're all Southwest Conference guys, you know. They all went to school in Texas, and I was kicking up on that bunch down there. So So they are against me to begin with. They weren't going to be fair, and Bill Hastings knows that. And all I asked to do was be fair to me, and some of them were, but some of them weren't. But the point of the whole thing is this: is that I really had a great run at Dallas. Jerry never interfered with me. He's not fair. He's beat up by the media. He was not fair handled it by the media because he never told me who to play, what to run, none of those things, defenses, because he stayed completely out of it. But if the light went on, the camera went on in the war room, and that meant it was live, he picked up the phone. He's got to be an actor too, and he's got to, he bought the damn thing. He can act like he owns it, but he never set the board. He never set the board. He never told you who to draft. He's too smart to allow you to do that. He lets the pros do it. He lets the coaches and the coaching staff and the scouts all do those things. So Jerry said 153 and a third wide and 120 yard long is yours. That's yours. And you handle that, and I'm going to handle everything outside it. And the only way I'll get involved inside that field is for free agency when we might have to pay a lot of money to bring in someone you might want to bring in. So basically, that was my arrangement with Jerry. Enjoyed the experience there, won the Super Bowl, and let me tell you about pro football and the difference in college. Pro football is about going to that. That's all it's about. You got 53 players that you bring in to camp, and you don't care where they're from. It's irrelevant. All you care about is how they play their position, how they cover a kickoff, they bring it back, how they throw their body around. They do everything that you ask of them. They get there at 7 o'clock in the morning. They leave at 7:30 that night after practice, and you hope you don't ever see them again until 7 o'clock the next morning or hear from them. And if they don't do what you ask them to do, you know what? They're on the waiver wire that next day or 2 days later or a week later. And they're pumping gas in Georgia for $8 an hour, and they lost the best job and most paying job they'll ever have the rest of their life because nearly every one of them making $500,000 a year. So they're highly competitive. They fight for that, keep that job. That's pro football, trying to get to the Super Bowl. The guys higher up the line are the Troy Aikmans, the Emmitt Smiths, the Irvings, all those guys are all great players. They're great competitors. They're going to compete every time they go on the field. They pay millions of dollars. They're the ones that get the ads, the most valuable players. They get the spotlight on them. They're highly competitive guys. So they do bust their butt. They are highly competitive. And people always ask you, how do you coach guys like that to make so much money, to make more than the coaches? Hey, it's easy because they know to keep their job, they got to do what we ask them to do. And so it is highly competitive because they know there's some guy waiting for a call to replace them if they don't do what we ask them to do. So that's what it's all about. But let me tell you that college coaching is about this. It's not about going to Super Bowl. It's not about so much winning games. We want to win games along the way. Every kid I recruited to come to the University of Oklahoma, I was in his home. I knew if there's a dad there. I knew their mother. I knew their siblings. I knew their goals, their compassions, their desires. I knew where they were from and where they want to go in life. I have them for the next 4 or 5 years. They're part of my program. I tell them when they come, I'm going to treat them just like they're a member of my family. I will do what's necessary to do everything I can to make them successful. I give them the tools. I give them the counseling, the tutors, all the intangibles that give them a chance to be successful and get an education. I want our players. College coaching is all about making young men and women have an opportunity to be successful, to have a productive life for the next 40, 50, 60 years of living for them and their families. That's what college and high school coaching is really all about. That's the same golden mission we both have. It's not about getting to a Super Bowl at all price and all costs. It is about helping develop young people for the rest of their lives. That's what college coaching and high school coaching is really, truly all about. And that's the way I've always approached it. I've always felt that's what makes our game so great. You got them for 4 or 5 years. You spend more time off the field with them than you ever do on the field. I've told every one of my players when I first bring them in as a freshman, You will learn more from my coaching staff, all these guys around the room I introduce them to, than you'll ever learn from any damn professor with any book under your arm you carry to any campus on this university. If you listen to them, you won't get a grade for it. It won't be on your transcript. It'll never be anywhere that people can read about it, know about it. But what they teach you, the intangibles, all the things that they will be involved with you in, and your 4 or 5 year experience here will behoove you the rest of your life more than anything else will happen on this campus, and I truly mean that. And they believe it too. And coaching is what truly one of the great professions in life, one of the most gratifying. Today, to have the relationship, I have my phone right there. I'm surprised it's not even buzzing right now and beeps on, some of them I don't wish the hell they wouldn't call me. But, I'm the first guy they call. Who the hell do you think they call? Some of them don't have daddies. If they hadn't called their mom and their mama can't help them, I know I was in their home. I know what they're from. So who do they call? They don't call Bill Galgley or David Bourne. They don't call Joe Castiglione. They call their coach. That's who they call. They call someone that knows who's going to help them, as I always have. I've always believed in the NCAA rules. I never people always, when you recruit great players, all the schools that lose them say, they'll always say, oh, they're cheating, they're buying their players and all. Never bought a player, never induced a player to come to the University of Oklahoma. Players want to come where good things happen. When they play on television and play on national TV and they compete for national championships, conference and national championships. We did that at Oklahoma. We could sell that. They knew it was happening. They could see it. We did it every year. We could attract the best players in the country. They listened to us. We knock on their door, they open the door, they let Oklahoma in. Kids want to come to Oklahoma. Today they want to come more than ever, especially offensive players, offensive linemen, receivers, quarterbacks. Lincoln Riley's got it going so good, every kid all over the United States thinks about coming and being part of this program because of what they're doing offensively. We won so much back then, kids want to be a part of winning. But once they're in my program, they're part of my family. And as I said in the Bootlegger's Boy, I said, hey, once they're part of my family, I'm going to take care of them. I know who the kids are that needed help and when they needed help and the reasons they needed help. I said, I'm not going to let anybody con my ass, I promise you. I'll run right out of my office. Becky's getting up because it's time to tell them. So I tried to shut me off. So I get to go on, I rattle on, go on here. But I'm telling you what coaching's all about and why I love the game and I love my family, why I was successful at Oklahoma, because I love my players love me, and they knew that, and they recruited for me, and that's why I had great teams and great players, because I didn't buy their ass, but I took care of them when they're there. All right? I'm still coaching today. We coach another team today. I coach another team. Becky and I both are still in coaching, but we coach another team that has great athletes, and we employ the same things we did with the athletes that we had when we coached athletes, human beings. We coach canines today. They are elite athletes. We only recruit the best elite athletes in K9. Ground Zero Saves Lives is about search and rescue and recovery of the finest dogs in the country to save people and recover people from disasters and man-made or natural disasters like F5s that came through Moore, Oklahoma in 99, 11, and 13, Murray bombing in Oklahoma. There'll be more of those, and we want to prepare dogs. We've already given away 8 to the city of Tulsa, to the task force. We have 2 of them here. We have 20 in the state. We've got 30 nationwide now with task forces, FEMA groups around the country. And we're proud of what we're doing. It's needed. And I just had our dogs, we had a litter of 12 the other day. I've got to go. Okay, film. We got to look at them. Becky says, film. Okay, I keep on talking about what we're doing. We're coaching another great team. I promise you, the players I'm coaching right now, they're asking to get to the quarterback. I promise you, they could get there. Film.
I think one of the most important things to realize is the different jobs that these dogs can do for us. They really help us focus our attention, and they help us make the best use of our time. There's a critical window of time when survivors are able to be rescued, and these dogs help us, clear areas where we don't spend a lot of time trying to uncover and delayer rubble, they help us to just immediately eliminate an area. There's no one there, we need to move on. We use our dogs extensively for those purposes, especially in hurricane responses and areas where there are very, very large paths of destruction. Conversely, on the other hand, sometimes we have just incredible stories of success. There are people alive today because our dogs found them. Our dogs have pulled them out of the rubble. There was a dog that deployed to the earthquake in Haiti several years ago. Many of you will remember there were hundreds of thousands of people that died, but many of the United States search and rescue teams were able to deploy down there and provide assistance. And there was a 2-year-old little girl that was pulled from the because of a dog. So that's a success story.
I'll speak a little. This process is daunting to find the dogs, first of all, that qualify medically, that have the prey drive to do this work. We search the country, and I'd say we find maybe 1 in 1,000, and they're very, very expensive. The government needs them now, obviously, for military reasons, but we need to protect the homeland. And the FEMA after incident report, after Harvey, Michael, and then the Thomas fires, FEMA came out and basically said, states, cities, communities, get ready. We cannot answer everything that is going to occur in this country. And that's not a scary comment. That is just the truth. So that's one of the motivating factors of preparing Oklahoma. And Chief Atchison and Terry Silverdine, you all are so lucky. You have some of the best here in Tulsa, if not the best. Your fire training center is amazing. Your rubble area where we practice, the teams come together and practice, we're ready. And we want more dogs in play as soon as possible. The story we always tell is the woman that was coming down the stairs in Tower 2 in 9/11. Her shoe fell off, and she reached to get it, and the building collapsed, and it threw her in a crevice. She was unconscious for a long time. She doesn't know really how long, but she could hear first responders above her, but she was too weak to call out. And she just was preparing her goodbyes. She knew she was badly injured, and she said all of a sudden she heard a dog sniffing above her, and she knew, I'm found. And she was, and that dog was from Texas, his first deployment. And the dog is passed, of course, today, but that's what we're looking at. If something goes down like Moore, Oklahoma, the devastation is incredible, and I don't know if you've seen pictures of it, but we have first responders in. They have to find you or your loved ones in a golden hour. I mean, that's what we're looking at. They can't do it. There is nothing, no technology, nothing like a dog's nose. They can clear the area quickly. We can mark where you are, and our teams can go in, or we can't, they can. Mark where you are, teams can go in and helpfully get you out. If we lose a life, recovery is equally as important for closure for the families. So we're really proud that in our fourth quarter, we hope to leave something behind for the people of Oklahoma. And we would love your support, of course, and we will be having, I'm going to do this. We're having an event here in Tulsa, April 18th, where you can come out and actually become a fireman and put on the equipment, go through some of the props, and then there's a dinner afterwards. But we're raising money. These dogs are valued by FEMA at $70,000 a piece. That's why your departments can't afford them. So they're very expensive, but they're priceless at the same time. So thank you all for letting us just introduce you to Ground Zero. Our website is groundzerosaveslives.com, and if you have any questions, we're here for Q&A for a while, and we appreciate you all letting us speak today.
We got pamphlets.
Oh, there's some pamphlets here too, if you'd like them.
Our dogs, I said earlier, are elite canines. They're 1 in 1,000. They are the Kyler Murrays and Baker Mayfields of dogs. I promise you, they are the best, and that they can't be, or they wash out. So you want one of them looking for you on your team. If you're buried under some damn rubble in the building up here, you want one of those guys looking for you. Thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Coach Switzer and Becky, for a great presentation. A book recognizing today's program will be presented to our partner in education school, which is Celia Clinton Elementary School. This week's book is Ladybug Girl and the Rescue Dogs. How appropriate. Again, Barry and Becky will stick around a few minutes after the meeting to respond to any questions that you might have. And let's not lose sight of that grand Rotary International vision. Together we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. And with that, we are adjourned.